Using a cycle lane around what looked like a rather large obstacle.
Gets his head down, he's in a time trialing position.
This is the Domestiques, presented by Watching Cycling.
Bonjour from the Domestiques, and welcome to another edition of the world's greatest cycling podcast. It's Bastille Day, and we have a lot to celebrate on France's National Day on this Thursday, July the 14th. Mr. Producer, cue the music. Yes, well, it really pumps up my tyres listening to a little bit of French music. Tills, Matilda Reynolds, I'd like to think you're somewhat of a Francophile, am I right?
No, I can't say it's probably my generation, Mike. But yeah, certainly gets you in the mood in what's been already an incredible day. And yeah, essentially, so Bastille Day and the Ventoux that's coming up for our Australian listeners, it would be like having the AFL Grand Final or the State of Origin on Australia Day. It doesn't get much bigger. It's going to be absolutely madness.
Absolutely madness. I've been coming here for a few years now, and the French obviously celebrate what is their National Day. No sign of Lee Hollywood Turner today, unfortunately, so there's only the two of us, Tills, but a big program lined up. I can tell you first and foremost, though, that Bastille Day is very big, and to have the Tour de France take place in the biggest national day on the French calendar, I think is quite fitting because the sun is out, it's shining, and people are looking forward to what promises to be a big day on Alpe d'Huez. More on that coming up. Also today we've got a very special guest, Neve Bradbury, who this week cracked a top 10 result in Italy's big tour, the Giro Donne. Well, let's talk about the Tour de France, and really it just keeps on giving, doesn't it? Just when you thought Tadej Pogacar was on his way to capturing a third Tour victory, the 23-year-old from Slovenia, well, he cracked. He absolutely cracked through the Alps for stage 11, the French Alps, and what an amazing day it was. The Great Dane, Jonas Vingegaard, made his move around 4.5 kilometres from the finish of the last climb, leaving the Pog, well, basically just looking for clues. The general classification after 11 stages looks like this. Vingegaard wears the yellow jersey. He's moved into the top of the overall classification. Romain Bardet was also the big mover of the day. The Frenchman slots into second place, 2 minutes and 20 in arrears, approximately, with Pogacar slipping down to third after experiencing a horribly painful day. Tills, the Pog, he cracked. Now, I didn't see it coming. What about you?
Well, luckily we have all of this recorded because I actually said on the very first podcast that I thought Vingegaard would win. So yeah, I've been pretty much wrong about everything else though, so apologies about that. But what an absolute stage! I've tried to already watch the highlights 3 different ways already, and it's definitely one I'm going to try to sit down and watch the entire stage off. Like you had Wout van Aert and Van der Poel off the front at the get-go, an absolute dream combo. It was absolutely orgasmic to see them going all the way at the very start. And yeah, it was an unbelievable team effort by Jumbo-Visma. We always said they had the strongest team against the strongest rider, and they absolutely showed that. And they smacked Pog when he was at his weakest. He's lost teammates to COVID, and I'm very nervous. One, it's absolutely not over. It's hard all the way to France this year. I feel for the sprinters. They don't really get any chance until Paris this year. They don't get a chance really until the very last stage. So there's still a lot of racing to go. We're only halfway. And I think it was just an incredible show of team effort against one man today. And the lights went out for a moment. He lost 3 minutes, but as he said, he can probably get 3 minutes back tomorrow. So such an exciting tour.
Tills, I saw a stat today. I was sure we're just over halfway into this 3-week tour. The riders have climbed some 18,000 metres in 11 stages. But get this, they've got to work their way through the Alps, obviously, two more big days. But then there's the Pyrenees. There's still around 27 or 28,000 metres of climbing still to come. So statistically, there's a long way to go. But do you think Pogacar, given he he's been on the front foot from the get-go in Copenhagen. Do you think today's stage finally caught up with him?
No, I think I'm not necessarily that it caught up with him. I think we've just got to pay more credit to all the other riders around him. Certainly, he's been putting himself on the line. I think he had been nervous. He'd been wanting to get as much buffer as possible in case all of these things around him started falling down. But absolute kudos and credit to all the other riders around him. As you say, it's still a long way to go for him. But I also am just so hopeful that he does not have COVID in the next 2 to 3 days. You know, once it starts getting within your team, it was very, very sad to see George Bennett, a Kiwi, the Kiwi hope there, to have to drop out. Hasn't had COVID for the entire pandemic and gets it within the first week of the tour. It's just such a devastating sport at times. And yeah, I just hope we see a healthy competition between the top guys. And yeah, it certainly may have caught up with him a little bit, but he'll come back from that. He's such a young kid and will recover extremely quickly.
Well, you talk about Vingegaard, and sure, you made the prediction a few days ago, but look, from what I saw on the live coverage here in France, he was hurting. He was hurting big time too when he crossed the finish line. How much did today's stage take out of him moving forward?
Yeah, this is the type of stage that you see on the very final mountain stage. This was almost a queen stage. So the good thing is, though, that everyone was hurting. Everyone was coming across their line absolutely bent over on their bikes and needing a lot of support just to keep moving. So it absolutely hurt everyone around them. And so I think they're all pretty much on a level playing field there.
Great to see Nairo Quintana re-announce himself, come back. He's working his way up the general classification. The Colombian always excites. He did when he made his debut in 2013. He's been very quiet over the last couple of years, but I personally was very happy to see him up there. What about you?
Yeah, well, this is Quintana's playground. It's the highest point of the tour last night. And so, everyone else is breathing through a straw and Quintana has got full lungs coming from altitude. So it was certainly his playground. I think actually him and Bardet would have been, I think Bardet looked devastated that he hadn't won the stage. I think they'd both been really targeting it, but it's great to see them up there, and the GC has really, thrown the eggs up in the air and it's all changed. So, yeah, it was a fantastic stage.
Well, the next question is, how do you back up after a big day like today? We've got two monster stages in the Alps. Alpe d'Huez coming up today, Thursday, I should say. And then you've got another Queen stage virtually on the Friday. It's not over. How do these guys back up? It just does my head in when I think about it every time.
Yeah, I think I felt tired and sore just sitting on the couch. I don't think we're going to see the style of racing that we saw today over the next 2 days. I think Visma will take charge. I think they'll want a break to go up the road and then they'll come to the fore at the very end. But certainly, for Jumbo-Visma to be attacking the yellow jersey 60 kilometres out from the finish, I don't think we'll see that over the next two stages. I think they're going to try to boa constrict the peloton a little bit and the favourites. And it'll be interesting to see if Ineos now take the flag and see what they can do.
There was a great shot of the Pog around about 30 kilometres from the finish. There was a close-up of him. He had a big smile on his face. He turned to the camera on the moto and basically said, yep, I'm good, I'm fresh. And then all of a sudden, a few kilometres down the road, he cracked. And some people suggested to me, perhaps he's foxing, perhaps he's saving his legs for the next 2 days. That can't be right.
No, you don't play with fire like that. But I think just what a fantastic rider and role model to have in the GC. He just loves it. He loves racing and he loved what was going on. He was getting attacked from every angle and just saying to the cameras, how good's this? How good's racing? How entertaining? And I think of some of the incredible talent that's come through the years gone by. They were terrible GC people. They were angry and mad and, didn't like the cameras and Pog's an incredible character that we are very lucky to have in our sport.
Well, they say that you've got to have a bad day to win a big Grand Tour like the Tour de France. Perhaps Pog had his bad day and will come back from that. He's only 2 minutes behind. It's not over. There's a lot of stages and climbs still to come. And don't forget, the temperature forecast for tomorrow and the next day is forecast to be around 35 to 40 degrees in the valleys. Obviously much cooler up the top, so that could play a role as well. One more question on the Pog. Is he still the favourite?
Yeah, I haven't checked the odds, but I think he's still in it to win it, and will still, even though he's beaten today, will be very hard to beat overall.
Well, I'm looking forward to working my way to Alpe d'Huez later on today. I've got my bike, got my mates, and we'll have a few drinks, I'm sure, up there as I take in the atmosphere. You're listening to the Domestiques, powered by Black Sheep Cycling Apparel.
The Domestiques by Black Sheep Cycling.
Well, let's now turn our attention to women's cycling, and with the inaugural Tour de Femme just 10 days away, we thought it'd be fitting to welcome the best placed Australian performer in Italy's Grand Tour, the Giro Donne. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't know too much about our very special guest, Neve Bradbury. She's just 20 years of age. And, she cracked it for a top 10 result on the general classification in Italy's big tour. Neve will not be competing at the Tour de Femme, the Women's Tour de France, which starts immediately after the completion of the men's tour. But she joins us, and it's a great big welcome to you, Neve. So happy to meet you for the very first time. How are you feeling after that great result?
Thank you for having me. I'm still a little bit shocked, to be honest, and really tired. Still soaking it all in, but it's a great feeling.
Can I ask you why you're shocked?
Neve, I feel like... Round of applause.
Yeah, round of applause first of all. Round of applause.
Why am I shocked?
Yes.
Because I didn't think I had it in me, honestly. I've never done such a long tour. I've done a few races, and my form has definitely been building slowly, but I didn't think by the time I raced the Giro it'd be quite that high and I'd be that competitive.
Neve, you're definitely a really good replacement for Hollywood. You're much better looking and a much better bike rider. So I appreciate how late it there is in Spain. But what was the goal heading into the Giro Donne? Were you're in Canyon-SRAM, one of the most powerful and biggest professional teams in the women's peloton. Were you their GC rider going into the Giro?
No, definitely not. We had a few options. In the back of my mind, we were thinking about, on my team as well, we were thinking about young riders, even though Neve Black is really, really strong too. But yeah, we had that in our minds. But I was mainly just focusing on eating and drinking rather than playing a specific role and then, recovering so I can help my teammates as much as possible.
And so how did it feel when you came in on that main mountain stage and you've got riders around you like Elisa Longo Borghini, Amanda Spratt at the time, you got Cavalli, Garcia, and obviously Van Vleuten is up the road. Could you believe the company that you were in during those few stages?
Yeah, actually I could. On stage 4 is also a really hard hilly stage, and I was also up there with them then. So I think that kind of built my confidence for those really hard hilly stages, and I actually expected myself to be there.
And how was stage 9? Like obviously you'd secured that 10th spot, but it wasn't absolute, and obviously we've seen how quickly things can change on the mountain stages. How did you feel going into that stage with the pressure of trying to hold that top 10?
I knew it was possible. I had a lot of help from my teammates because Kristen Faulkner was actually off the front, and she was really strong the day before, and she was just behind me in GC, so we really needed to keep the tempo on all day. It was such a brutal stage. Like, honestly, it was full gas all day, and I was honestly glad to finish. Yeah.
Can I just ask a couple of questions, if I could, Tills? And I just want to ask you, Tills, what excites you about Neve? When you told us here at the Domestiques that Neve was coming on, you were very excited. And, she's only 20. I mean, I can remember what I was doing on her birthday when she came into the world in 2002. What excites you about this young lady?
Oh, well, I think we've, as Australians, you know, I know Neve from just even the local crit racing where she puts herself out there. It's not necessarily her strength, but she's always around the local scene, and she has one of the most wonderful cycling families going in Melbourne. And I think we've always known how strong Neve's been and her potential, but that is incredibly hard, you know, as an Australian to show your potential overseas. So I think we're all very excited that Neve not only got that platform at the Giro Donne, but was able to rise to that. So the Giro Donne, as we covered a little bit through this podcast already, but this has been and is still the most prestigious stage race for the women's peloton. This is only the first year that the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift has been included, and that has changed the dynamic a little bit of the Giro Donne, who was there and how they were performing. But it didn't matter, you know, for Neve to have her name up there in the top 10, top 15 even, is incredible. And for her to be the cream in Canyon-SRAM just, I think, gives her that confidence. And so we're all extremely excited for you, Neve, and excited to see where you'll go from here.
And Neve, can I ask you what got you interested in cycling? What is it that's brought you into a top 10 for a Grand Tour like this?
My whole family was actually riding before me. I was doing ballet, and I didn't start until 2 years after my family because, I don't know, really. I was just into my ballet, and I was just sick of watching the racing, so I thought I may as well give it a go. And I don't know, I guess my love for cycling just grew from there.
Till says, and Neve got a huge future. Where can she go with her talent?
Well, yeah, Neve, I think in 2020, you're known as having won the Zwift Academy. And I think in that 2021 year, you were the only Australian to actually go over into the pro peloton. From memory, Sarah Giganti was already signed. Ruby Rose would not come until the final year. So in that, there's so much talent in Australia, but the pandemic really, you know, it blanketed, it shut down so much opportunity and really paused any type of opportunity for riders to get overseas. And I'm pretty sure that year you were the only one. And at that stage, you were only like 19, 18 winning this pro contract. How was that year? I know, speaking to you at the time, when you went over there, you were a little bit homesick, but I remember, you know, we don't want to talk about the war, but the pandemic for Melbourne at that time, we were all locked down. We couldn't move more than 5K, and you've been shipped off to Spain. How was that period for you? Yeah,
I mean, it was a huge jump for sure, being only 18 years old, moving all the way across the other side of the world. Also knowing that my family couldn't visit because of COVID. But then again, I was quite grateful to be there because my friends and family back home just kept telling me about how horrible it was in Melbourne or Australia in general with all the restrictions and stuff. So it was good and bad. Yeah, mostly good. Yeah.
Were there times there where you did want, within that first year to 18 months of being with Canyon-SRAM, that you wanted to come home, that you had doubts that whether that life was for you?
No, I've never had doubts that the life was for me. There was a point towards the end of last year when my flight got cancelled back home to Australia, and that was pretty rough. But there's never been a moment where I question what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I think it's to acknowledge, Neve, not many people would realise just how hard it is for Aussies to leave home and to, you know, because it's more just against the competition. They can just go home every other weekend, particularly if they're injured, they're sick, they can pop home, recharge and come back into the peloton. That's not the case for the Aussies or Kiwis. And so have you made a base there in Girona?
Yeah, I have. I feel like Girona's home now. I have my boyfriend here, which really helps. There's a little Australian community in Girona also. I'm really lucky also right now with my family being here. My mum, dad and my grandparents all watch me at the Giro Donne, so they give me a little bit of confidence and morale boost.
And do you think that helped get the amazing result that you did? I saw your dad feature a few times, and whether it be Glenvale or St Kilda, he's always one of the biggest supporters of women's cycling.
Yeah, I mean, they're always supporting me one way or the other. At the Giro, they supported me indirectly. I just happened to have good legs, but they got me there in the first place.
Neve, is there any particular rider that you model your style around? Any influences?
Oh, there's so many good riders. I really like Annemiek just because she's so strong and just goes for it no matter what. Yeah, like so many riders in the peloton, I look around like, wow, she's cool. Yeah, Marianne Vos, she's also been one of my role models.
And so, Neve, does it take a lot of pressure off you with your performance at the Giro Donne? I know the Zwift Academy is an incredible, legitimate pathway to go into the World Tour, but it is very unique pathway to get into the pro peloton. Does that take a lot of pressure off? It's the talent we always knew existed, but have you really proven to yourself that you belong there and that you will now get more opportunity?
Yeah, I think so. I think when people think about Zwift Academy winners, they're like, oh yeah, they're strong, but they can't handle a bunch, or they can't ride their bike properly, or they can't race in an actual bunch. So I think I've kind of proven that actually we can. We're strong, yes, but we can work on our technical skills.
Neve, the Wollongong UCI Road World Championships are coming to Australia. Are you earmarked to compete in the junior team?
I'm not sure yet. I hope so. I hope my Giro result really increases my chances.
What do you think, Tills? Is she good enough? Obviously she's good enough, but has she earned a selection?
Oh, 100%. It would be wild. There'll be protests if she's not there. I think just because she knows that Neve will really suit that course, and also she's a team player. So if it's not her, then you know that she's incredibly good at working for others, which we've seen throughout the season so far. So yeah, I really hope she gets that opportunity.
The Domestiques.
And so, Neve, with the Giro Donne, where do you think it needs to go now? Do you think it requires a date change? It's very rare to have two Grand Tours very close to one another. And also, it's not just that. There's a reason the men's Giro is in May. You guys really experienced the heat out there. Where do you think the Giro Donne goes now? Or do you think the women's peloton can manage two Grand Tours back to back?
No, I think it should be further apart from each other. Like 10 days, I think it's only 10 days in between, which is just not enough to rest and recover. I mean, yes, some riders can do it, but there's a reason why the men have so much time in between the two tours.
Well, Tills, I'll ask you this question. The UCI are big on gender equality. Why aren't the two Grand Tours further apart, and should there be a push to separate them?
Oh, I think, Neve's just answered it there. Like, it's the Giro Donne was already set before the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift was inserted in there as well. So it's already a very, very packed calendar. But one of the best things about the Giro Donne this year was that we could watch it. So it would have been very hard in previous years just to know how Neve got to that 10th place on GC. But this year we were really able to capture those key moments and see the racing, which I think has really elevated the race again. But Neve, and your thoughts on the Tour de France Femme, who do you think is both going to win and also the chances of Canyon-SRAM? Can Katarzyna Domia finally get that win? She's had more seconds than I've had dinners at the moment.
I mean, it's hard to go past Annemiek at the moment based on her Giro results. I think she can back it up again. 10 days is enough for her to recover and go again. But yes, I really do think that my team can do really well. Also with Paulina and Cassie combined, they can help each other. Like, the whole team is a really strong climbing team. I just, cross my fingers and toes that it works well and they can get a good result. And
how do you stop an Annemiek?
I don't know. Teammates.
Downhill.
Yeah, downhill. But she has enough time to get back up anyway.
Well, look, Neve.
Certainly an incredible performance, yeah.
It sure is incredible. Neve, you're grabbing headlines. You got one more question there, Tills?
Oh, I just wanted to ask Neve, just finally, what advice would you give to a neo-pro or even yourself back 2 years ago when you first went over? What advice would you give to someone new in entering the pro peloton?
I think for me, when I was in lockdown, I just tried to do fun rides all the time. I didn't have a coach. I think that's the number one rule. You need to have fun. Like, yes, you can have a coach and whatever, but you need to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy riding the bike, then you've got no hope.
Well, listen, Neve.
Have fun.
Yeah, have fun, Neve. You're grabbing headlines. You've brought yourself to our attention, thanks to Tills. I'll certainly will be following your career, and I'm sure many of our listeners will too. Congratulations on your top 10 result. Here's to many more.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That's Neve Bradbury, top 10 finisher at the Giro Donne. And that was just brilliant. Well done to Neve Bradbury.
This is the Domestiques, presented by Black Sheep Cycling.
Tills, it's just you and I. The Domestiques have been reduced to two. It's kind of a little bit... It's gone quiet, hasn't it, without Hollywood?
Yeah, who knows where he is, I'm sure. If anyone's heard from Hollywood or knows where he is, sing out.
Well, look, that is the program. Enjoy your Bastille Day wherever you're listening around the world. If you're in Australia, enjoy the race tonight. It should be an absolute cracker. Whether you're on the ground, like I will be on outdoors, or watching it on TV, it promises to be another memorable stage. Where will the Tour de France end up? Your guess is as good as mine. Tills, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us, and yeah, great to have Neve on. And yeah, everyone jump on, make sure you follow her. She's got an incredible future ahead of her. Only 20 years old and already a top 10 at the Giro Donne. It's just going to be another Australian star that we can follow.
Absolutely. On behalf of the Domestiques, I'm Mike Tomalaris. We'll talk to you very soon.
The Domestiques by Black Sheep Cycling.